Hi, thank you for joining me today. My name is Tish Gonzalez, and I am the Grants and Operations Manager at Caring for Denver Foundation. Today, I will be taking you through the documents that we require that you upload as part of your grant application. You can always find a current list of our required documents with descriptions in the Documents section of the Grants Request form in our Grants portal. The slideshow I'm about to review is available as a PDF on our resources page, found by going to caringfordenver.org. That's caring the number 4 denver.org and clicking on resources at the top of the page. While you're watching this on YouTube, you can skip to different sections or specific documents by using the timestamps in the description box. Some of the documents we require will be about programs or projects for which you are requesting funding, and others will be about your organization as a whole. And for organizations with a fiscal sponsor, we may request additional documents about the fiscal sponsor. We also accept other documents that you may feel are important to include. Let's start with an explanation of the budget documents specifically about your project or program for which you are requesting funding. We require that applicants submit a budget narrative form and a line item budget form for the project or program for which you are requesting funding from Caring for Denver Foundation. In this section, I'll also talk a little about fiscal sponsorship. First, we have the budget narrative form. This template is an opportunity for you to detail and describe the funds you are requesting from us. We do require you to use our template, which is available via a link in our application. Update it with your figures, save them, and upload to the Documents section in your online application. In the budget narrative form, provide a brief description and justification for each line item included in your budget for which you are requesting funding from us, along with the amounts you are requesting from us. If there are sections for which you are not requesting funding, you can leave those blank. This is a narrative version of the line item budget form, which we will talk about later. It explains what is in each of the categories on your line item budget form. I'll flip through the budget narrative form and show you the pieces. You'll enter your organization name and program name here at the top. And here, the direct cost section starts, beginning with personnel and staff section. Here, you will provide descriptions and totals of your program staff's salaries, benefits, and fringe. There are instructions here explaining what you can and cannot request in this section. Personnel and staff are employees of your organization. They complete the W-2 form and when they are hired, and receive a W-4 form at tax time. Note that this section should not include contractors, consultants, or partners. This is for your organization's employees with direct involvement in the program/project for which you are requesting funding. Here where it says staff personnel number 1, you will copy and paste this section for each person for whom you are requesting funding. So after you cut and paste this, you'll change the number to number 2, number 1, number 2, number 3, so forth. Enter the position, title, description of role in project/program, the total salary, the total benefits and fringe, and the percentage you are requesting from Caring for Denver Foundation. Then the total requested for this staff person for each year you are requesting funding. If you are requesting funding for multiple individuals with the same job title, complete a separate section for each person. You'll do this for each staff person, then add them up here in the total box. This will give us an idea of what you're asking for from Caring for Denver Foundation. On the Program Supplies and Equipment section here, you'll provide details for any program supplies, equipment funds you are requesting. These are tangible items needed to implement and run the program for which you are requesting funding. Here where it says Supply Equipment Number 1, you will copy and paste again this section for each supply, equipment for which you are requesting funding. Enter what it is, why it is needed, and how the cost was determined. Then enter the total requested for this supply or equipment for each year you are requesting funding. You'll do this for each supply or equipment, then add them up here in the total box. Now to the other program-related costs section. Here you'll provide detail for any services and or fees needed to implement and run the program for which you are requesting funding. Examples are meeting costs, travel costs, and professional development. Here, where it says Other Program-Related Costs Number 1, you will copy and paste this section for each supply or equipment for which you are requesting funding, just like the above sections. Enter what it is, why it's needed, and how the cost was determined. Then enter the total requested for the other program costs for each year you are requesting funding. You'll do this for each other program cost. Then add them up here in the total box. After you've completed the personnel staff section, the supplies and or equipment section, and the other program cost section, you'll total them up and enter those amounts here in the direct costs total box. That adds the entire top portion up. That's what we're doing right there. And here, the other cost section starts, beginning with contractors, consultants, and or partners section. Here, you will provide descriptions and totals for your costs associated with contractors, consultants, and partners. This differs from the personnel staff section above. That one is for your organization's employees. Contractors are independent and complete the Form W-9 when hired and receive a Form 1099 at tax time. Or perhaps you pay another organization for their services. Either of these scenarios are covered in this section. Where it says contractor, consultant, and or partner number 1, you will copy and paste this section for contractor, consultant, or partner for which you are requesting funding. For each one, you will copy again and paste that. Enter who it is, a brief description of the role they have in the project or program, and a description of the funding you are requesting, including the percentage you are requesting from Caring for Denver Foundation. Then the total requested for this contractor, consultant, or partner for each year you are requesting funding. You'll do this for each contractor, consultant, or partner, then total them up here in the total box. On to the indirect and or fiscal sponsorship fee section. Indirect costs are sometimes referred to as overhead. These funds can help you with general operating for your organization. This includes the costs of doing business that are not necessarily directly tied to grant-funded program or project activities, but they are necessary for the function of the organization that runs the program or project, such as rent, utilities, technology, and non-programmatic employee salaries, including accounting, grant writing, IT, and management. If requested, these are limited to a maximum of 15% direct costs, that total above, the one you just entered, when combined with the fiscal sponsor's fee, if requested. Speaking of that, let's move on to the fiscal sponsors fee section. Organizations that have fiscal sponsors can request funds for the fee charged by the fiscal sponsor. Caring for Denver requires a fiscal sponsor for organizations that do not yet have their 501c3 designation and/or who have less than 1 year of tax returns and financial statements. Fiscal sponsors offer their legal and tax-exempt status and fiscal oversight to groups engaged in activities related to the sponsoring organization's mission. It typically involves a fee-based contractual arrangement between a project and an established nonprofit organization. Organizations that require a fiscal sponsor must submit a fully signed fiscal sponsorship agreement before we can enter into a grant agreement with you. I'll talk more about this later. If your organization is using a fiscal sponsor for this work and they charge a fee, you can enter it here. This amount can't exceed 15% of the total direct costs, the total in your budget narrative, which was calculated earlier. You may request indirect costs and a fiscal sponsorship fee, but these combined must not exceed 15% of the total direct costs. In the total box here, add the indirect costs and the fiscal sponsor's fee and enter those totals here. Once you've completed this section, you'll add all the other costs and enter those figures in this box. This includes contractors, consultants, and/or partners, indirect costs, and fiscal sponsors' fees. Then you are all done and you've totaled up the direct costs up above section and the other cost section that we just did. You will add those two together and input those totals here at the end. And this is your total request for Caring for Denver Foundation. You will use the totals listed on the budget narrative form in two other places. Your grant request in the grants portal, where we ask you the requested amounts, and also on the line item budget form, which we are about to discuss. Next, let's talk about the line item budget form. We do require you to use our template, which is available via a link in the application. Update it with your figures, save them, and upload to the Documents section in your online application. On the line item budget template, you will share the total expected revenue for your project or program. In other words, dollars coming into your organization for the project or program. And secondly, the expenses you expect will be covered by a grant from Caring for Denver. This document is a summary of the budget narrative form document that you will also submit with your grant application. We do recommend completing that form first, then plugging in your grant request amounts here. Our line item budget form template has two sections, each in a different color table. The first teal, blue, green table is total revenue for your project or program for only the years you are requesting funding from us. This section shows current revenue or income for the program or project, such as contributions from donors, grants from other funders, or Medicaid reimbursements. This includes all revenue from all sources, including Caring for Denver, but also other funding sources. Note that the amounts listed on that first line labeled Caring for Denver Foundation Request must match the amount you are requesting from us. These amounts should be the same here as later in the line item budget form, and also your grant request in the grants portal and the budget narrative form. The second dark purple table is for project or program expenses you are actually requesting from Caring for Denver. It shows what portion of the program or project budget you are requesting from us. In other words, what expenses would our grant funds pay for? For example, if your program costs $100,000 to operate for 1 year and you receive 75% of those funds from other foundations and are requesting 25% from us, you would break that 25% down here. If you have questions about what is included in these categories, see the Budget Narrative Form template and refer to the Budget Narrative Form portion of this video. Note that the amounts listed on the last line labeled Total Request to Caring for Denver Foundation must match the first line in the teal revenue box above. Also, those amounts should be the same here as the amounts on your grant request in the grants portal and the budget narrative form. Those are the budget templates we require. Now, on to other required financial documents. Now let's discuss financial documents for your organization. In addition to the budget documents for your project or program related to your grant request, we request a current annual operating budget for your organization as a whole, as well as income and expense statements, balance sheets, and year-end financials. Here is a sample of a current annual operating budget. Your current annual operating budget shows revenue and expenses for your organization's current fiscal year. It is typically created at the end of the year for the following year and is approved by your board. If you don't have an operating budget, now is a good time to create a budget for your organization. This is a sample we have put together from online sources. It is not a required template. It shows the type of information that we need. Here is a sample of an income and expense statement. With your application, include an income and expense statement through the most recently closed month of the current fiscal year. Different organizations and accounting software call this document different things. You may know it as a statement of activities, statement of financial performance, income statement, profit and loss statement. They are all the same document with different names. The document shows the organization's income and expense for a particular period, usually year to date or year end. This is a standard financial document that is typically reviewed by a board of directors regularly during their meetings. This is a statement your accountant can run for you. If you are your own bookkeeper, this is a report you can run in your accounting software. Again, this is a sample we have put together from online sources. It is not a required template. It shows the type of information that we need. Here's a sample balance sheet. With your application, include a balance sheet through the most recently closed month of the current fiscal year. For nonprofit companies and nonprofit organizations, for-profit companies and nonprofit organizations sometimes call this document different things. You may know it as a statement of financial position. They are the same document with different names. This document shows the organization's assets and liabilities as of a particular date, usually year to date or year end. This is a standard financial document that is typically reviewed by a board of directors regularly during their meetings. This is a statement your bookkeeper or accountant can run for you. And again, if you are your own bookkeeper, this is a report you can run in your accounting software. Once again, this is a sample we have put together from online sources. It is not a required template. It shows the type of information that we need. Now let's talk about year-end financial statements. We require applicants to provide 2 years of year-end statements. What you submit will depend on your operating budget and practices. Some organizations undergo an annual financial audit or annual financial review. Those include an examination of your organization's financial statements and accompanying disclosures by an independent firm. If you undergo an annual financial audit by an independent audit firm, you will submit the 2 most recent audit reports that include your year-end financial statements. If your audit is not rated unqualified by the auditor's firm, please include a document with an explanation of any qualifications to the audit that the firm identified. If you undergo an annual financial review by an independent firm, you will submit the 2 most recent financial reviews that include your year-end financial statements. If you do not undergo an audit or a financial review, you will submit the 2 most recent years of financial statements, which include both the income and expense statement, as well as a balance sheet for the year-ending months for the last 2 years that have closed. These are for the entire year rather than a point in time or just 1 month. I'm going to quickly flip through a sample of an audited financial statement. This sample we have put together from online sources is not a required template. It does show the type of information we need. Don't scramble to take notes while I flip through these pages. You can download a copy of the slide deck. Here we'll talk about other documents. We've heard from applicants that they would like to have been able to share additional documents. So we created a spot for you to do just that. Please note that these are not required in any way. It's just here if there are other documents you feel are important for us to better understand your project or program. This is totally up to you, but I can share that we definitely do not need annual reports or letters of support. The next portion of the video pertains to those who need fiscal sponsors. If you are certain that you do not need a fiscal sponsor, you can end the video here. If you know you need a fiscal sponsor or aren't sure if you do, please stick around. If you are leaving now, I want to thank you for joining us. More information about our grants process is available online. Contact us with any questions you may have. Email is best for questions, or set up a call or video chat. Again, thanks and the best of luck. Here, we'll talk about fiscal sponsors' financial documents. Your organization is using a fiscal sponsor. We request the fiscal sponsor's year-end financial statements and the executed fiscal sponsorship agreement. The fiscal sponsor's year-end financial statements are the same type of documents we discussed in relation to your own organization. Just as we request your own organization's year-end financial statements for the last 2 years, we also need year-end financial statements for your fiscal sponsor's organization or the last 2 fiscal years. If your fiscal sponsor undergoes an audit or a financial review by an outside firm, submit those. If your fiscal sponsor does not undergo an audit or a financial review by an outside firm, we need both their income and expense statements as well as their balance sheets for the last 2 year ends. The sample audited financial statement, which again you can look through if you download these slides, is the same as the last one. The documents are the same type as we request for your organization's financial statements, just for the fiscal sponsor's organization instead of your organization. Here's a sample of an executed fiscal sponsorship agreement. If your organization has a fiscal sponsor, please provide the signed fiscal sponsorship agreement that defines the roles and responsibilities of both the fiscal sponsor and the organization. The fiscal sponsor should provide this agreement for you to sign. The agreement needs to lay out the responsibilities and expectations of the two organizations, and it must be signed by both organizations. We prefer to have this during the application process, but if you don't have one with your fiscal sponsor yet, you can submit this after the grant has been approved. I will flip through the pages of this sample. Again, don't feel like you need to take this all in from one video. You can download a copy of the slides to take a closer look at the document samples. Thank you so much for joining us. More information about our grants is available online. There you can find our grants timeline, current call for proposals, more about the process, frequently asked questions, and additional resources. And please reach out to us in the grants office if you have any questions or need assistance as you prepare your application. we, we're, we're always happy to schedule a call or a video chat. Email is best for simpler questions to set up a call. Again, thank you and the best of luck.